Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everybody. Today we're diving into a book that I think a lot of you might have heard of. It's called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod.
Oh, yeah. The Miracle Morning. It's been recommended by some pretty big names, right? People like Tim Sanders, Dr. Ivan Misner.
Exactly. And when people like that are recommending a book, it kind of makes you sit up and take notice, doesn't it? It makes you think, okay, maybe there's something here that I need to check out.
Absolutely. And, the premise of the book is pretty simple, right? It's this idea that you can completely transform your life by changing the way you start your day.
Yeah, by transforming your mornings. Now, I know a lot of our listeners are already pretty high achievers, right? They're already doing a lot to improve themselves. But I think this book offers some really valuable insights for anyone, no matter where they are in their journey.
Oh, for sure. And that's what we're going to be doing in this deep dive, right? We're going to be pulling out the core principles of the Miracle Morning, the things that really matter. And we're going to see how we can apply them to our own lives.
So just to give everyone a quick overview, Hal Elrod basically argues that the way you start your day sets the tone for the rest of your day. He talks about the importance of waking up with intention rather than just sort of stumbling through your morning on autopilot.
Right. And he has this really interesting concept called the 95% reality check, which essentially makes you question why so many people seem to settle for less than they really want out of life.
Yeah, that 95% figure is pretty sobering, isn't it? It makes you think, okay, am I part of that 95%?
It really does. But the good news is Elrod offers a solution, and that solution is the LIFE S.A.V.E.R.S. It's an acronym that stands for silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And these are 6 practices that he says you should do every morning to help you reach your full potential.
And what's great about this book is that it's super flexible. Even if you're really busy, Elrod has a 6-minute version of the Miracle Morning.
That's right. There's a miracle morning for everybody.
So with that said, why don't we jump right into the book, chapter by chapter, starting with the introduction, My Story and Why Yours is the One That Matters. Now, I have to say, Hal's story is pretty incredible.
It is, yeah. It's pretty intense.
He starts off by telling us about his life at age 20. He was a top salesperson. He had a great social life. Things seemed to be going really well for him.
Yeah, he was living the dream
Until he got into this horrific car accident. It was really bad. He was hit head-on by a drunk driver, and he was basically told that he might never walk again.
And that would be devastating for anyone, right? But Hal didn't give up. He fought his way back. And in the process, he learned a lot about himself, about resilience, about the power of the human spirit.
Absolutely. And that's what he wants to share with us in this book. He wants to show us that no matter what challenges we're facing, we all have the ability to overcome them.
And that's one of the things I really appreciate about The Miracle Morning, is that it's not just about theory. It's based on Hal's own real-life experiences. He's been through some really tough times, and he's come out stronger on the other side. So when he talks about the power of personal transformation, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, he's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk.
Yeah.
And that really comes through in his writing.
And right from the start, he's very clear that this book is not just about him, it's about you, the reader. He says, this book is an invitation to become the person you need to be to create everything you want in life.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is, yeah. But I think that's what makes this book so powerful. It's a call to action. It's a challenge to step up and create the life we truly desire.
And I think that's something that a lot of people are looking for, especially these days.
Absolutely. We're all bombarded with so much information, so many distractions. It's easy to feel lost, to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah. And I think that's why books like The Miracle Morning are so popular. They offer us a roadmap, a clear path to follow.
Right. They give us a sense of hope, and they empower us to take control of our lives.
So let's move on to chapter 1. It's time to wake up to your full potential. This chapter starts with a quote from Seth Godin, and it's a great quote. You don't have enough time to be both unhappy and mediocre.
That's a great quote. And it really gets to the heart of what this chapter is about, which is, why do we settle for mediocrity? Why do we accept less than what we're capable of?
Yeah, and Elrod makes this really interesting point. He says that when a baby is born, we see it as a miracle. We see all the potential it has. But somewhere along the way, we start to lose that sense of wonder. We start to believe that we're not capable of achieving great things.
And I think that's true for a lot of people, right? We get caught up in the day-to-day grind, and we forget to dream big. We forget to believe in ourselves.
Exactly. And Elrod's challenge to us in this chapter is to wake up to our full potential. He wants us to start believing in ourselves again.
And he does a good job of backing up his claims, right? He shares a lot of anecdotal evidence of people who have implemented the miracle morning and experienced positive changes in their lives.
Oh, yeah. He talks about people who have increased their income, lost weight, improved their relationships.
And it's not just about material success either. He talks about people who have found greater happiness, more fulfillment, and a deeper sense of purpose.
Right. And he stresses that it doesn't matter where you're starting from. It doesn't matter if you've made mistakes in the past or if you feel like you've settled for less than you deserve. It can always change your life.
And that's a really hopeful message, I think, because it means that no matter what's happened in the past, we always have the power to create a better future for ourselves.
Absolutely. So moving on to Chapter 2, The Miracle Morning Origin, Born Out of Desperation. This chapter is where Hal really gets into his personal story. And it's a pretty powerful story.
It is. As we mentioned before, he was in a really bad car accident, and he had to overcome some serious physical and emotional challenges.
Yeah. He talks about how he was in a lot of pain, he was depressed, he was struggling financially.
And a lot of people would have just given up, but Hal didn't.
Right. And he credits his recovery to a few things, one of which was his decision to start running. Now, this might seem like a small thing, but it was actually a huge turning point for him.
Because it was more than just physical exercise, right? It was about taking control of his life. It was about proving to himself that he was still capable of achieving great things.
Exactly. And that's what he wants to show us in this chapter. He wants to show us that even when we're feeling desperate, even when we're at our lowest point, there's always something we can do to start turning things around.
And that's such an important message because I think we've all been there, right? We've all had those moments where we feel like we're stuck, like we're never going to get out of the rut we're in.
Absolutely. And that's why this chapter is so powerful, because it shows us that there is a way out. There is a way to overcome our challenges and create a better life for ourselves.
Yeah, it's really inspiring.
Okay, so Chapter 3 is the 95% reality check. And this is where Hal gets real with us. He starts by quoting Robin Sharma, who says, "One of the saddest things in life is to get to the end and look back in regret, knowing that you could have been, done, and had so much more."
Oof, that's a tough one.
It is, yeah. But it's true. And Hal's point in this chapter is that most people are living lives of quiet desperation. He says that only about 5% of people are actually living the lives they truly desire.
And that's because most of us are trapped in what he calls paradigms.
Paradigms.
Yeah. Paradigms are basically the beliefs, habits, and patterns of thinking that we've developed over time, and they can be really limiting.
Oh, I see. So, like, if you grew up believing that you weren't good at math, that might become a paradigm that holds you back from pursuing a career in science or engineering.
Exactly. And the problem with paradigms is that we're often not even aware of them. They're just sort of running in the background, shaping our thoughts and behaviors without us even realizing it.
So how do we break free from these limiting paradigms?
Well, that's what Hal's going to teach us in this chapter and throughout the rest of the book. But one of the key things he emphasizes is the importance of personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility.
Yeah. It's about taking ownership of our lives and our choices. It's about realizing that we're not victims of our circumstances. We have the power to change our lives, but we have to be willing to take responsibility for doing so.
I like that. It's very empowering.
It is. And it's a theme that runs throughout the book. So, in this chapter, Hal really lays the groundwork for the rest of the book. He makes us aware of the problem, which is that most of us are settling for less than we're capable of.
Right. And then he starts to give us the tools to start changing that.
Exactly.
Okay, Chapter 4. Why did you wake up this morning? This chapter starts with a quote from George Lorimer. "You've got to get up every morning with determination if you're going to go to bed with satisfaction."
That's a good one. And it sets the stage for a really important question that Hal poses in this chapter, right? He asks, why did you wake up this morning? Like, what was your motivation? Was it out of excitement for the day ahead? Or was it simply because you had to?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people it's the latter. They're waking up to an alarm clock, they're dreading the day ahead.
And that's no way to live, right?
Definitely not. And Hal's point is that we have a choice. We can choose to wake up with a sense of purpose, with a clear intention for how we want to spend our day.
And that all starts with our mindset, right? It's about shifting our perspective from I have to I get to.
Yeah, that's a really important distinction. Instead of seeing our day as a series of obligations, we can see it as an opportunity an opportunity to grow, to learn, to create, to connect with others.
And that's a much more empowering way to approach life.
Absolutely. So in this chapter, Hal really challenges us to think about why we're waking up every morning. And he encourages us to start waking up with a sense of purpose, a sense of excitement for the day ahead.
Yeah, I think that's something we can all benefit from.
Okay, so Chapter 5 is the 5-step snooze-proof wake-up strategy for the snoozeaholics. I think a lot of people can relate to this one. Hitting that snooze button can be so tempting.
Oh, tell me about it. I used to be the queen of the snooze button.
Well, in this chapter, Hal offers a 5-step strategy to help us overcome that temptation. And I have to say, it's a pretty effective strategy.
Oh, yeah, these are solid tips. And I think one of the most important ones is the first one, which is to set your intentions the night before. Because if you go to bed thinking about all the things you have to do the next day, you're much more likely to wake up feeling stressed and overwhelmed.
Right. But if you go to bed thinking about something you're excited about, something you're looking forward to, you're much more likely to wake up feeling motivated and energized.
Exactly. So it all starts with your mindset.
And then the other steps in the strategy are all about making it harder to hit that snooze button.
Right. So step 2 is to move your alarm clock across the room.
So you actually have to get out of bed to turn it off.
Which, let's be honest, can be a huge hurdle sometimes.
It can be, yeah. But once you're out of bed, you're much less likely to crawl back in.
Absolutely. And then step 3 is to brush your teeth.
Which is a good idea anyway, right?
Oh, definitely. But Hal also suggests using an antiseptic mouthwash because it gives you that extra little boost of freshness and energy.
I like that. And then step 4 is to drink a full glass of water.
Which is so important for rehydrating your body after a night of sleep.
And he actually gives it a name, the Wake Up Motivation Level, or WUML.
Which is kind of fun.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the final step is to get dressed or jump in the shower.
Which basically just gets you moving and helps you wake up even more.
Right. And he also offers a few bonus tips, like setting a timer for your bedroom lights to gradually brighten as you wake up, and placing your Miracle Morning book by your bed as a visual cue.
Yeah, I like that. It's all about setting yourself up for success.
Absolutely. So if you're struggling to get out of bed in the morning, I highly recommend checking out this chapter.
Yeah, it's packed with great advice.
Okay, Chapter 6, the LIFE S.A.V.E.R.S. 6 practices guaranteed to save you from a life of unfulfilled potential. This is really the core of the book.
It is, yeah. This is where Hal introduces the 6 practices that he says will transform your life.
And as we mentioned earlier, the S.A.V.E.R.S. stand for silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing.
And Hal argues that by doing these 6 practices every morning, you can dramatically improve your life in every area.
And he calls these the S.A.V.E.R.S. because they're designed to save you from a life of unfulfilled potential.
Exactly.
So let's start with S, which stands for silence. Now, this might seem like a strange thing to do first thing in the morning, but Hal argues that it's actually one of the most important things you can do.
Because it gives you a chance to clear your mind, to connect with yourself, to just be present in the moment.
And there are a lot of different ways to practice silence. You know, you can meditate, you can pray, you can just sit quietly and focus on your breath.
Yeah, and even just a few minutes of silence can make a big difference. It can help you to feel more calm, more centered, and more focused. And Hal quotes Mahatma Gandhi in this chapter, who said, "In the attitude of silence, the soul finds the path in a clearer light, and what is elusive and deceptive resolves itself into crystal clearness."
That's beautiful. And it really gets to the heart of what silence is all about.
Yeah, I love that quote.
Okay, so A stands for affirmations. Now, a lot of people have a misconception about affirmations. They think that it's just about repeating positive statements over and over again, even if you don't believe them.
Right, like you're trying to trick yourself into believing something that's not true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's not what affirmations are about. Affirmations are about consciously choosing the thoughts and beliefs that you want to have.
Yeah. It's about creating a positive self-image. It's about replacing negative self-talk with positive self-talk.
Right. And when you do this consistently, it can have a profound impact on your life.
Oh, absolutely. Because our thoughts create our reality. So if we're constantly thinking negative thoughts, we're going to create a negative reality for ourselves. But if we start thinking positive thoughts, we're going to start creating a positive reality for ourselves.
I like that. And Hal actually gives some really good advice on how to create effective affirmations. He says that they should be personal, positive, and present tense.
Yeah. And he also says that it's important to connect your affirmations to your why. Like, why is this important to you? What are you hoping to achieve by repeating this affirmation?
That's a good point. And he also suggests writing your affirmations down and reading them out loud every morning.
Yeah, that's a good practice. It helps to really embed them in your mind.
Okay, so V stands for visualization. And again, a lot of people have a misconception about visualization. They think that it's just about daydreaming or fantasizing.
Right, like you're just sitting around wishing for things to happen.
Exactly. But visualization is actually a very powerful tool that can be used to achieve your goals. And it's based on the idea that your mind can't tell the difference between something that's real and something that you vividly imagine.
Right. So if you can see yourself achieving your goal in your mind's eye, your mind will start to believe that it's possible. And then it will start working to make it happen.
I like that. And Hal actually suggests creating a vision board, which is basically a collage of images and words that represent your goals and dreams.
Yeah. And he says that it's important to put your vision board somewhere where you'll see it every day. Because the more you see it, the more you'll start to believe that it's possible.
I think that's a great idea. And he also suggests visualizing yourself achieving your goals as if it's already happened. So like if you're trying to lose weight,
Yeah.
you might visualize yourself at your goal weight, feeling confident and healthy.
Exactly. And he says that the more detail you can put into your visualization, the more powerful it will be.
Okay, so E stands for exercise. Now, I think most people understand the benefits of exercise, but Hal argues that it's especially important to exercise in the morning.
Oh, yeah. Because it gets your blood flowing, it wakes you up, and it sets you up for a productive day. And there's actually some science to back this up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Studies have shown that people who exercise in the morning are more likely to stick to their workout routine, and they tend to have more energy and focus throughout the day.
That makes sense. And Hal doesn't recommend anything too strenuous. He says that even just a few minutes of light exercise can make a big difference.
Right. A quick walk, some jumping jacks, a few stretches.
And he also emphasizes the importance of finding an activity that you enjoy. Because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to stick with it.
Absolutely. And he also says that it's important to listen to your body. If you're feeling tired or sore, don't push yourself too hard. Just do what you can.
Okay, so R stands for reading. And Hal argues that reading is essential for personal growth. He says that reading is like a fast track to success.
Yeah, because it allows you to learn from the experts. You can learn about any topic you want without having to go through years of trial and error yourself.
Right. And he recommends reading for at least 10 minutes every morning. And he said that you should focus on reading books that will inspire you, teach you new skills, or challenge your thinking.
Yeah. And he's not talking about just any kind of reading. He specifically recommends reading personal development books, books that will help you to grow as a person.
And he even suggests keeping a journal to jot down any key insights or ideas that you come across while you're reading.
Yeah. That's a great way to make the information stick. And it can also be helpful to go back and review your notes later on.
And finally, S stands for scribing. And this is basically just a fancy word for journaling.
Right. And journaling can be a really powerful tool for self-reflection and personal growth.
Yeah. It allows you to process your thoughts and emotions, to track your progress, and to set goals for the future. And Hal suggests writing for at least 5 minutes every morning.
And he has a few suggestions for what to write about, right?
He does, yeah. He says you can write about things you're grateful for, things you're proud of, things you're struggling with, or goals you're working towards.
And you can also use your journal to brainstorm ideas, to solve problems, or to just get your thoughts out of your head.
Yeah. And he also emphasizes the importance of being honest and authentic in your journal. He says that your journal is a safe space to express yourself without judgment.
And he encourages you to not worry about grammar or spelling or making it perfect. Just let your thoughts flow.
Yeah, I think that's really important because journaling is not about creating a masterpiece. It's about connecting with yourself.
Absolutely.
Okay, so those are the 6 LIFE S.A.V.E.R.S. practices. And Hal argues that if you do these 6 practices every morning, you will transform your life.
And I think it's important to note that he's not suggesting that you have to spend an hour on each of these practices. You can adjust the time you spend on each one depending on your schedule and your preferences.
Right. He even provides a 6-minute version of the Miracle Morning for people who are really short on time.
Exactly. So there's really no excuse not to try it.
Okay, so Chapter 7 is the 6-minute miracle for the busy people. Now, I know a lot of people might be thinking, 6 minutes, that's not enough time to do anything.
Right. But Hal's point is that even 6 minutes is better than nothing.
And he actually provides a really good breakdown of how to spend those 6 minutes. So he says that you should spend 1 minute on each of the S-A-V-E-R-S practices.
Exactly. So 1 minute of silence, 1 minute of affirmations, 1 minute of visualization, 1 minute of exercise, 1 minute of reading, and 1 minute of scribing.
Right. And he even suggests setting a timer for each minute so that you don't get carried away.
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea because it's easy to lose track of time when you're doing something you enjoy.
So even if you're really busy, you can still fit the miracle morning into your life.
And if you can do the full miracle morning, that's great. But if you can only spare 6 minutes, that's still a great start.
Absolutely. So don't let time be an excuse.
Yeah, there's always time for personal growth.
Okay, Chapter 8 is customizing your miracle morning to fit your lifestyle and achieve your highest goals and dreams. And this is a really important chapter because it emphasizes that the miracle morning is not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Right, exactly. It's a framework that you can adapt to your own individual needs and preferences.
And Hal provides a lot of great tips on how to do this. So, for example, he talks about the importance of choosing the right wake-up time for you.
Yeah. And he says that you should listen to your body and find a time that feels natural and energizing for you. Because if you're forcing yourself to wake up at a time that's not right for you, you're just going to end up feeling tired and resentful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he also talks about the importance of choosing the right S-A-V-E-R-S practices for you. You don't have to do all 6 every morning. You can choose the ones that you feel are most beneficial for you.
Right. And he also suggests experimenting with different orders for the practices.
Right. You might find that you prefer to do silence first, or you might prefer to save it for last.
And he also talks about the importance of making your miracle morning fun and enjoyable.
Right. Because if it feels like a chore, you're not going to stick with it.
Absolutely. So he suggests finding ways to make it your own. Maybe you listen to your favorite music while you're exercising, or you light a candle while you're journaling.
Yeah, I like that. And he also emphasizes the importance of being consistent. He says that even if you can only spare a few minutes each morning, it's better to do something than nothing.
Right. Because consistency is key when it comes to habit formation.
Absolutely. So take some time to customize your miracle morning and make it your own.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay, Chapter 9, From Unbearable to Unstoppable. The real secret to forming habits that will transform your life in 30 days. Now, I think a lot of people struggle with forming new habits. They start off with good intentions, but then they lose motivation and give up.
Right. Habit formation can be tough.
It can be, yeah. But in this chapter, Hal provides a really great framework for forming new habits that stick. And it's based on the idea that it takes about 30 days to form a new habit.
That's right. And he breaks down those 30 days into 3 distinct phases.
Okay, tell me about these phases.
Okay, so the first phase is the unbearable phase. And this lasts for about the first 10 days. And during this phase, the new habit is going to feel really hard. You're going to be tempted to give up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But Hal's advice is to just stick with it, because it will get easier. He says that the first 10 days are the hardest, but once you get through them, it starts to get a lot easier.
Okay, so what's the second phase?
The second phase is the uncomfortable phase, and this lasts from about day 11 to day 20. And during this phase, the new habit is still going to feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it's not going to be as hard as it was during the first 10 days.
Right.
And then the final phase is the unstoppable phase, and this lasts from about day 21 to day 30. And during this phase, the new habit is going to start to feel more natural.
Like it's just part of your routine.
Exactly.
So Hal's point is that if you can just stick with a new habit for 30 days, it will become much easier to maintain in the long run.
Right. And I think that's really encouraging because it means that we don't have to be perfect. We just have to be consistent.
Absolutely.
And Hal shares a personal anecdote in this chapter that really highlights this point.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
So he talks about how he used to hate running, but he decided to challenge himself to run every day for 30 days. And he did it. And by the end of the 30 days, he actually enjoyed running.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. And it just goes to show that we're capable of so much more than we think we are.
Absolutely.
We just have to be willing to push ourselves outside of our comfort zones.
Okay, Chapter 10, The Miracle Morning 30-Day Life Transformation Challenge. This chapter is basically a call to action. Hal challenges us to commit to doing the Miracle Morning for 30 days.
Yeah. And he provides a step-by-step guide to help us get started.
And he also encourages us to find an accountability partner, someone who can support us and encourage us along the way.
Yeah, because it's always easier to stick to something when you have someone else to do it with.
Absolutely. So if you're ready to transform your life, I highly recommend taking the 30-day challenge.
Yeah, it could be life-changing.
Okay, and finally, the conclusion. In the conclusion, Hal leaves us with a really powerful message. He says, let today be the day you give up who you've been for who you can become.
Yeah. And I think that's a great way to sum up the entire book.
It is, yeah. It's all about personal transformation. It's about taking control of our lives and creating the future that we desire.
And it all starts with our mornings.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the miracle morning.
It's been a pleasure, and we hope that you'll join us again next time.
Until then, keep striving for greatness. Goodbye, everyone.